Todd Schrupp and Lo Duca are joined by trainer Todd Pletcher.
Well, we're always happy to see Todd Pletcher, but many of us were saying, where was he before race number 4? In the 4th race, Todd Pletcher sends out Energy Spirit to win the debut at 26-1. Okay, this is probably not the best of timing, but how did you like your horse going into the race?
Absolutely loved it.
That's a great answer.
Especially when he spotted the field 5 lengths out of the gate.
This was a very nice debut. When you see a maiden debut like this, do you automatically start thinking stakes race, or do you just take it one race at a time and think allowance level next time out?
Well, with a 3-year-old, you're probably thinking allowance level next time. And but you know, the horse had trained very well. We weren't surprised he ran well. I had a couple of people ask me before, and the horse has done nothing wrong. Worked really well in the grass the only time we worked him, and he's a very well-bred horse. So you know, I can't tell you that I'm shocked. I was a little surprised that he was completely ignored at the windows, but I was impressed by the way he finished.
Todd, you always set high standards for your barn from the beginning of the year. You map out what you want for everyone in your division, and what you want to be competing for are championships, both in the Eclipse Awards and then obviously competing in Grade 1 races. Super Saturday, to me, do you look at it as almost like a finals exam for your barn? It's like, this shows what we've done over the course of the year. Just to have horses who run in those races is a compliment to what you've been doing all year.
Well, I don't really look at it that way, but I certainly look at it as you know, as a significant preps and final preps for the Breeders' Cup in most cases, and you know, certainly a huge day on its own. I mean, this is you know, in the old days, this would be the Breeders' Cup before there was a Breeders' Cup. So these are historic races, meaningful races from a pedigree standpoint, from a stallion making standpoint, broodmare making standpoint. So you know, each race individually is you know, a big race for each individual horse and each individual owner. So we kind of look at it like that, and then hope that maybe you can build upon that and go on to the Breeders' Cup.
Out of these 6 graded stakes races on TVG Super Saturday here at Belmont Park, Todd Pletcher is represented in 4 of them. Let's start with the Kelso. This race changed quite a bit with the presence of It's My Lucky Day. I don't think a lot of people expected him to go there, and then word trickled out. Obviously, he's a heavy favorite at 4-5. You got a big long shot in Capital Bastogne. What do you expect?
Well, we're trying to recapture the race when he won the King's Bishop last year as a 3-year-old, and what we need is an honest pace up front. A hot pace would be even better, but an honest pace, and then just a good sustained run. The horse is training very well. Most of his races this year, nothing's really seemed to fall into place. You know, if we shortened him up, the pace wasn't that fast for those type of races, and we tried stretching him out a little bit. I think his ideal distance is somewhere around 7/8 with a hot pace. We didn't have that option, so it was either 6 in the Vosburg or a mile in the Kelso, and we'll hope that they kind of stay honest up front.
So you go from a long shot in the Kelso to the favorite in the Beldame. Stop Charger Maria, and a horse that a lot of people, even myself, didn't really love, but going 1.25 miles, she's gotten better and better this year. What's been the difference?
You know, it's one of those things, to be honest with you, I don't really know why she suddenly turned the corner in the spring, but we were sort of frustrated during the winter. She didn't seem to get back into the form we were hoping for. First couple races were subpar, and as soon as we shipped her to Saratoga, I don't know if it was the change in the climate, changing the surface we were training her on, but just suddenly she just started working lights out, and we decided based on the strength of her training, we'd go the Black-Eyed Susan, and it's been all good since then. And you know, biggest concern in the Alabama was just coming back off short rest in 4 weeks, and you know, we did it with Princess of Silmar last year. You know, it's really hard to do that back-to-back at Saratoga, coaching club to Alabama, and I think it speaks of, you know, how nice of a filly she is, and to have 3 wins at 1 1/8, a win at 1 1/4. Obviously, she likes a little added distance.
This is the time of year where 3-year-olds get a chance to test themselves against older horses. Is that even a big concern of yours for her, taking on older horses in the Beldame?
It's definitely a concern, and you know, but it seems like the right time of the year to step out and try it. Our options were to go to the Cotillion last week. I was a little concerned about backing up to 1 1/16, carrying top weight. The Parks track can be a little quirky at times, and we felt like, you know, she ran really well 1 turn in the Tempted last year at Aqueduct, going a 1-turn mile. So I think she handles the 1-turn aspect of the 1 1/8. And you know, the older mares, you're always concerned when you try them, but you know, without Close Hatches in here, without Princess of Silmar in here, without Beholder in here, we figured if we're going to try them, we'll test it against you know, the other ones.
She wins tomorrow. What's next? I'm going to ask you that question.
Well, you know, I've talked to Mike Rapoli a little bit about it, and I think we would probably go on to the Breeders' Cup if she were to run well. Shouldn't necessarily have to win. If she runs well, looks like she deserves a chance, we'll certainly consider that.
Your next big opportunity on the TVG Super Saturday card is the Flower Bowl. You have Viva Raffaella in there. Look, she's had a hard luck here in the sense that she's 0 for 7, but she's always been right there. What's it going to take for her to finally break through into the winner's circle?
Well, hopefully, just peeking at it on paper, I think she has maybe a little bit of a pace advantage here, and backing up to 1.25 miles, if she could get things her way up front, I think that would be the key. I mean, she ran lights out in the Glens Falls, and she was just simply second best on the day, but we couldn't fault her effort. She's been very consistent, showing up, running hard every time. I think the back up to 1.25 miles, maybe a little bit of pace advantage could set up well for her.
The Flower Bowl and Viva Raffaella going for trainer Todd Pletcher, and most handicappers would agree at that assessment. The race is there to be taken on the lead, and the question is whether or not she can take them all the way, gate to wire. The biggest race of the day is obviously the Jockey Club Gold Cup, and in there you have a horse micromanaged I wanted to ask you about, because you did have him entered in the Woodward, correct? And then scratched out of there and opted for the race at Parks, and I noticed you said that track can be a little quirky at times, and this horse got beat as a heavy favorite. Look, I mean, obviously, knowing what you know now, maybe you would say you'd go on the Woodward, but why come back in the Jockey Club Gold Cup if you passed on the Woodward and you got beat last time out in Parks? Why does micromanage belong in this spot?
Well, he's run some big races, races that are good enough to compete against these horses. He's sort of fallen into a pattern if you look at his form, but every other race he runs really well. And, his off race was at Parks. Like you said, kind of a funny track. We were a little concerned about being stuck inside. He tends to be a little better when he's on the outside, but the way the whole race unfolded, it was just sort of an oddly run race. I didn't think he ran horribly. I didn't think he ran his A race. Hopefully he's